And welcome back to LinkedIn Logs, the Jobs Podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the Jobs Podcast. Like I said, for the website, cpluscomedy.com, like I just said, it's a website. Go there. I don't know what's going on anymore. Here we are. We are in, I completed a week of this job. So you're welcome. Boy, oh boy, I'll tell you, even though it is a WFH, even if it's a work from home job, the people don't tell you, how much effort goes into that. Let me say this. I'll say this. I've for the past 2 years, two and change, that I have not been working a regular job, I would still wake up the same time, 3:45 in the morning, go to the gym, work out, come back home, take a shower, and put on clothes, and pretend to be busy with something. Now, I obviously am still in doing that motion. Even during the pandemic, I was waking up doing the same thing, running the same schedule. I'm a creature of habit, baby. But it's the actual idea of working, like not the idea, the motions of working. Speaking of motion, I'm just going through. I sit down at the computer. It's 10 a.m. and I crack my fingers like a cartoon. And then I sit down and start doing the work. Although it's a lot different now because I don't have my personal laptop. Well, my work laptop. So that's coming. At this point in time, I am essentially shadowing, which is good, which is fine. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And that'll come this week, just in time for Christmas. And then I won't be thrown to the fishes, where I'm being eased into it, which is great. On Thursday, we had me and then 2 other people that I work with, who are the people that I will be working with. So they're supervisors and also contemporaries. This is the word I'm looking for. We're on the same level, and they're also above me. They're very nice, and it wasn't the person I'm mainly working with is one of those 2 people, and she was like, let's sit down with this other person I interviewed with, and we're just going to we're just going to chop it up, more or less. She didn't say that. And then we sat down. In the first 5 minutes, they were like, you have any questions for us? And then I asked a question and proceeded to sit here for the next hour and 55 minutes. I'm not kidding. It was a 2-hour and change meeting where I just sat and I listened. So I asked a really good question. No big deal. I've been doing this for 12 years. I've been doing this for 12 years. I mention just the idea of working because, I can no longer take naps during the day. I can't just like go and do something. I can't go to the movies during the day anymore. Wicked for Good was my last midday movie. I have to see Avatar on Christmas. The rest of you friggin' normals. Ugh. I have to see a movie on Christmas. When in reality, all I want to do is sit at home and not be bothered by people. Yeah, Avatar Fire and Ash is coming out. I just started watching Christmas movies last night. It is December 16th. I started watching it December 15th. And the first one was Nightmare Before Christmas. And I like to end on Christmas Day with A Christmas Story and A Christmas Story Christmas. On Christmas Eve, I like to watch Office Christmas Party and The Night Before. Just like that, because they're both loud party movies, and then Christmas Story, Christmas is like the family thing. by myself, obviously, or with the pets. Obviously with the pets. But yeah, that's what I do. And then in between, there's roughly 30 Christmas movies lined up. Die Hard, Die Hard 2, Home Alone 2, Gremlins, Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas, 4 Muppet movies. Great. All right, let's get into this first story so I can go back to work because I actually have some things I need to do. Oh, should I? Hold on, I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, you can't see anything else because I do have something. I do have a work stuff up. Anyway, this comes to the New York Times, written by Rebecca Davis O'Brien is the last pinned person. U.S. employment rate rises, a warning sign for the economy. Is this the jobs thing? Oh, interesting. Yeah, this is delayed from the government shutdown. Okay. Now, apparently, 64,000 jobs were added in November. This is from the data delayed by the government shutdown. The unemployment rate ticked up 4.6%, which is the highest level in 4 years. They provided a nice little chart that shows that, wow, there was a boom in jobs in looks like 2024, early 2025. These figures could be revised later, obviously, but there was a steep decline going into the main part of 2025. Now, jobless rate last month rose 4.6%. This is what Ms. O'Brien's writing. Up from 4.4% in September, the last month for which officials had a full picture of the labor force before the weeks-long government shutdown. It's the highest unemployment rate since September 2021, when the economy was emerging from the pandemic, and it increased from 4.0% in January. We've had a bunch of mixed signals in the past few months regarding unemployment and regarding the state of the economy. This report also included some data that was left over from October, collected from a survey of employers after the government shutdown ended. Now, the report has things like interest rates, federal layoffs, and people looking for full-time work. For the interest rates, we know that the report reinforces the Federal Reserve's decision to cut the interest rates. That was last week. That was an action they took last week. The Fed's on guard for signs that the labor market is on the cusp of cracking, even though we're told that the economy is doing extremely well. They're weighing the labor market's weaknesses against the risk posed by elevated inflation. Federal layoffs. Among the forces affecting the report was the end of the deferred resignation program for federal officials that the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, launched this year. Remember, DOGE is itself cut. There are apparently a large number of people who are working part-time who would rather work full-time. The share was 8.7% in November, up for a full percentage point since this time last year. And I know people who, I was one of them, who I wasn't even working part-time. But I know plenty of people who are in that same position who would rather have the stability of a full-time job. Oh, it has numbers for black workers. I'm one of those. The unemployment rate is especially grim for black workers, up to 8.3%, which is more than 2 percentage points since the beginning of last year. Black workers are often harbingers of what's to come in the labor market. They have been buffeted by federal policies over the past year, especially federal layoffs. Manufacturing jobs saw a decrease of about 5,000 jobs in November. Remember that there's a trade war going on with this current presidential administration, and that sector is a part of it. And remember, this current administration has often said, we're going to bring back manufacturing jobs to America. And lo and behold, 5,000 jobs have gone off. Now, as Ms. O'Brien writes, is that her last name? Because I feel bad. Yes. This is an off-schedule report. This is because of the 43-day government shutdown. Jesus, 43, my goodness. The November jobs data was supposed to be released on December 5th, correct? Today's report included November data, but also belatedly gathered October data, or data, depends on how you say it. Publication of September jobs data was delayed more than 6 weeks. The report showed a greater than expected increase in hiring, but with uneven gains centered on the healthcare and hospitality industries, along with a rise in unemployment. In short, it kind of feels as if the economy is taking a wayward step. Is going in a direction in which we are not, or even the job sector rather, is going in, and the economy is going in a direction that is not favorable towards anyone. It doesn't seem like, based on those numbers, even if you are, let's say you're somebody who's part of a merger, you're being bought out by Netflix, or you're being bought out by Skydance. It seems that anybody in any position can be let go at any point, or can be, if they're in fear of their job because of redundancies. We speak of these mergers, and yes, even though I was rooting for Netflix to buy Warner Brothers, I would rather have Warner Brothers run itself. But there's going to be redundancies whenever these companies come together, and that's exactly what happened when Disney bought Fox assets, 20th Century Fox, and the like. And with that, 9,000 people lost their jobs. So it's gonna keep happening. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do to stop it. All right, hey, speaking of Disney, this comes from Jeremy Fuster over at The Wrap, or Fuster, depends on how you say it. Unions raise flag on Disney, OpenAI's deal infringement concerns. Built its business off our backs. Last week, there was an announcement, I believe last Wednesday, regarding Disney partnering with OpenAI to include 200 of its characters within the Sora programming for the OpenAI's Sora AI tool, where users can ask it to create videos and such with a prompt. That came a day after Disney told Google you're infringing on our copyrights by allowing our characters to be used in Gemini and things like that. This is not the first time Disney has gone against AI companies. Warner Brothers and Universal all went against, said somebody else, I don't remember, was using their characters in copyright infringement. Anyway, the guilds, rightfully so, have released statements in response to Disney's deal with OpenAI, with the WGA, the Writers Guild of America, vowing to meet with the company to, quote, probe the details of the deal. SAG-AFTRA is the other, the Screen Actors Guild is the other guild that's along with this. Disney for its end of the deal, Disney's making $1 billion equity investment in OpenAI as part of the deal, and it's expected to start generating, quote, fan-inspired videos with permitted characters early next year. Unfortunately, even if you are somebody who's not a big fan of seeing AI created videos or prompts or any of that bullcrap, you will see it on Disney Plus. That's where this fan-generated things will be coming from. I do not want to log on to Disney Plus to watch The Simpsons and see someone who has typed in Stitch and Pacha from Emperor's New Groove are high-fiving. I do not like this. This is a statement from the WGA. Part of it reads in part, Disney's deal with OpenAI, that was me correcting myself because I speak perfect English. Disney's deal with OpenAI appears to sanction its theft of our work and cedes the value of what we create to a tech company that has built its business off our backs. Companies, including OpenAI, have stolen vast libraries of works owned by the studios and created by WGA members and the Hollywood labor to train their artificial intelligence systems. We have repeatedly called for the studios to take legal action to defend the valuable intellectual property we helped to create. Disney's cease and desist letter to Google recognizes this, and we will continue to pressure the companies to take action, the union continued. The thing about that, when they where they mentioned that the message to Google is, I agree with them. I agree with the writers. Disney only cares about it when it's costing them money, because I think otherwise if they didn't mention this, if this deal had not happened, then they would just essentially, I don't know if they would let Google's Gemini continue to do its thing. But the other part of this deal is that these characters cannot speak or talk. So again, if they could speak or talk, then they would have to pay, Patrick Warburton for playing what's his name? It's the Emperor's New Groove, and the sequel is Kronk's New Groove. That's how everything's. Now, as part of the mutual bargaining agreement that ended in the 2023 writers' strike, remember that lasted 18 months, something like that. Studios like Disney are required to meet annually with the WGA to discuss advancements in the development and implementation of AI. And this is something that truly needs to be discussed. Because even if Disney owns Woody and Buzz and Mike and the rest of the characters, Cinderella, these characters were helped developed by the creatives. They were voiced by the actors. So yeah, Disney can say, hey, we own the characters, but if it weren't for director A or actor B or writer C, then you'd be nowhere. And yeah, you could say someone else stepped into that position. Someone could step into that position and have taken over that and made the character their own, but then you'd still be in the same spot. SAG-AFTRA, in its own statement, said it has had quote, months of frank discussions with OpenAI about the union's demands that actors have control over whether they give consent to AI companies to use their name, likeness, and performances in generative software. The union also said it will monitor the implementation of Disney's AI software to ensure that it makes good on its promise to, quote, ensure ethical and responsible use of this technology. We've seen the same moves over the past year. Actors do not want their likenesses to be used without payment. I will say this. Let me finish that thought. Actors do not want their likenesses to be used, in parentheses, without payment. However, I think there are a lot of actors, and I would say probably a majority of them, who would rather not have their likenesses used in AI software at all. This same thing, more recently, Scarlett Johansson was not a fan of OpenAI last year, I believe, or maybe it was earlier this year. I don't remember. Releasing its ChatGPT 4.0 or 3.5, one of those, and having a voice that sounded just like her character from her. And then all the way back in the 90s when Robin Williams signed his contract with Disney, they could not use his voice for anything that he was not a part of, voice or likeness, I believe, for Genie. And that's why you got Dan Castellaneta voicing Genie for a couple of projects, including the Aladdin cartoon show, if you don't remember that, but also some of the sequels. Was Robin Williams in Kingdom Hearts? That's what I'm thinking of right now. I have all of the Kingdom Hearts games. I have every single Kingdom Hearts game. I have played roughly an hour of each. And you know what? I love the world of Kingdom Hearts. I like the Disney characters in there. I like a crossover with Final Fantasy. But boy, oh boy, those games are so tough. I'm playing through Mortal Kombat 1 right now on Xbox. It's on Game Pass, so I'm just knocking that out. And Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's DLC. There's nothing to do with this job podcast. Anyway, Disney's also acknowledged that that cease and desist letter is sent to Google on Wednesday, alleging, quote, massive scale copyright infringement of Disney's IP. The Actors Union SAG said it equally objects to Google's AI guardrails, calling them inadequate and must be significantly strengthened. It's with AI at this point. There was a point before that Disney deal last week where all these stories were coming out about how OpenAI is losing tons of money, and Sam Altman is a horrible person, and all these AI companies in general are just we're in some sort of AI bubble, and just like the internet bubble in the 90s, late 90s, it's going to pop, and that is something that to keep an eye out for. But if we got a competent president at this point, there should have been guardrails, and I understand that, or some type of fencing. I understand that AI tools have been around for several years at this point. However, there is, as it's increasingly becoming ever so clear that these tools are being misused early on, there needs to be a way to rein them in. And this is not, the fears of humanity being afraid that Skynet is coming to take over. When these tools are being misused for not only just creating Disney characters or what have you, or impersonating people, but there's also just misinformation being spread, and I'm one of many vocal people who just talk about that. And I'm sure if this was happening, if misinformation or misinterpretations were of people on the right were being implemented, then they would, one, blame people on the left, and then two, probably say, hey, it's not fair that people are creating nudes of Tucker Carlson. It's disgusting. Even when he's naked, he's still wearing a bow tie. He's got a bow tie around his dick. It's a clean show. This next one comes from Variety. It's written by Todd Spangler. Disney's OpenAI deal appears to sanction AI companies that their work. It's the same thing. Remember, it's a 3-year licensing agreement, and it starts in 2026. We will see this happening at some point in early 2026. I don't know. We don't know when. It's not being talked about. I expect to see this before I expect to see YouTube TV subscribers' ability to log into ESPN Unlimited. I know I'm splitting it with a friend, and so we're not paying as much as like a single person who is subscribing to it. However, by this time, we should be able to log into ESPN Unlimited. In fact, for $82 a month, I should get YouTube Premium for free instead of paying another $14 just to get YouTube Premium, which includes YouTube Music, which is the only reason I have it. They're both the same. It doesn't fucking matter. Now, the reason I linked this article is because an OpenAI rep responded to WGA's objection to the deal. They said, quote, this is a landmark agreement because it shows how AI companies in the creative industry can work together to establish meaningful standards for responsible AI in entertainment. That is kind of a boilerplate response. This is just the beginning. At some point, Disney could say, hey, or OpenAI could convince Disney that, hey, this is going well. Why don't we do something more? And Disney will find a way to not pay the actors, the people who are behind these characters. Uh, and in fact, here's the thing: I work at a company that I have been told uh, is interested in using AI tools. They're not going to use them in any creative ways. They're using them in ways to not remix things, but to do the tedious things that would take a lot more time. Um, so they'd be opening up time for other people, regardless. I feel as though it is. I think it's fine. I'm not gonna completely say, screw AI, but I do, but I because I do feel that, again, I've said it before, these AI tools are exactly that. They're tools. You're not gonna write a paper with this. My sister's. This is something. This is a ruler from my. If you're watching the video, you saw my sister's name on the ruler. This is her ruler from. Oh my God! This has to be from the 90s. Anyway, you're not going to write a paper with this ruler. You're not going to, do your taxes with this pair of scissors. You can't use one tool. That's what I'm saying. You can't use one tool for everything. And I think what's going to happen with these companies is that with Disney and Amazon and Netflix, whoever the three companies are in the next 5 years that own everything, the creative and industry outlets, they're going to realize that in a very hard and difficult way. I think the first studio to hire Tilly Norwood, the first studio to even they're going to get such a slap in the face. The AI actress or actor, I don't have to gender it. But I do feel like the first big company to hire her or to put out a movie, that was completed with completely AI, is going to get a big slap to reality, because I do think not even just taking out the human component of actually making a story and having human experiences that only humans can create by making a movie or even shooting a blog as a content creator, in quotes. They're going to, these companies are going to understand that, oh, that's not what people want. And I say that because there are so many, who is it? Not Soder. Yeah, Soderbergh. Soderbergh shot a movie on an iPhone. I believe Sean, what is that Florida movie? Sean Baker. Is that his name? Yeah, Sean Baker shoots his movies on iPhones. And yes, those movies, Soderbergh's movies are good. Sean Baker's movies have, relatively, whatever your good is, Sean Baker's movies have won awards. But the other part of that is they shot them on iPhones. They used $10,000 lenses. They have, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of lightings and location scouts and producers and other actors and things of that nature. What I'm saying is you can't just go to ChatGPT or Copilot or Perplexity or Gemini and say, here's a movie idea, write me a script. And even still, you can't just go and say, okay, that was a good first scene. Let's build it up by doing this and this and this and this and this. Because these tools have their limits, and these limits are limiting. Can you believe I have a writing degree? These limits are are not even from their makers, but they're just by fortune of what the tools are. So as much as Adobe wants to force their AI shenanigans on Premiere, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make my videos better or anyone's videos better. And it starts with us. We have to not, we can't place all the blame on the AI companies. We can't just, it's the same thing. Like, you can't just blame the kids for what they see on social media. Sometimes the parents have to step in. That's not me commenting on parents. Don't you fucking talk to me like that. You can't blame everything on, you can't say, oh, this person's obese because it's their fault that they're eating so much. And I'm not even a mental health person. But at points, it's people needing help or people needing to be guided in the right direction. Or, in this case, us saying, hey, maybe I shouldn't rely on this thing that is not only being my hype person or my hype bot, but also it is, in a lot of cases, just wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong all the time. I'm not saying to avoid it. And I'm not saying I've never used an AI thing. I used one this morning at 4:30 something this morning. I asked it, hey, here's my leg workout. Am I hitting the adductors and the abductors? And it told me yes. And it gave me all this other stuff. And I was like, all right, that's all I want to know is if I'm hitting with these specific exercises, abductors and adductors. Because it felt a little quad heavy. And then this is last night. I was planning to work out. This is neither here nor there. I was planning to work out, and it was a little quad heavy. And then I went, oh man, now I have to. Let me see if I can, do some supersetting with some hammy stuff. And then I made a whole section for hammies. And then I was doing the Olympic stuff because I also do Olympic lifts. And so when I was putting it all together, I went, oh, okay, there's at least 2 more quad heavy exercises than there are hammies and Olympics. And then that just sat in my mind all night. I woke up and I was like, I'm going to ask ChatGPT. So what I'm getting at is these are tools. We can't force these companies to not use them because at some point they're going to implement them. But we can slow them down. We can get them to understand with SAG, with the WGA, and with our own selves that it's important. The human component is very important. Also, another thing that we can do as humans is this is something that Google is looking at in particular. When you Google something and the first thing that pops up is an AI generated prompt, don't click on it. Don't rely on that being your own thing because they are looking at that data. Scroll down, click through links. If Reddit pops up on the first page, then click on Reddit. Do something. Don't let, because if you keep doing that, they're going to train it that way. The reason I know that is because I've done when I needed money prior to having this job. I would do the AI surveys. I would do little AI jobs and bits and gigs here and there, and they would ask about that, and they would tell us about that. Who would I do it for? Don't worry about it. There's also a couple of AI prompt jobs that I took where I would have to plug in the microphone. I would have to stand. Have I ever talked about this? I don't think so. I'm going to end the show in a second. Where I would have to stand in front of the mic. I had to stand 10 feet back from the mic. I'm not kidding. This is very true. I would have to interrupt myself. I would say ums and uhs. I would have to cough. I would have to have a video playing. All of that to train an AI model. I did it a couple of times. One time it paid really well because I was doing a long, hours worth of work. the other times, the people in charge of the project would be so demanding, but their instructions were not good, mostly because they were overseas and they were translating the instructions from what they were getting. So you would get like over explained English instructions and it wouldn't make sense. And then you'd have to ask them, and then, or you just do it. And then they would send out a mass, email saying, a lot of people didn't do this right. This is how you're supposed to do it. And it just, yeah. Anyway, let's not rely on AI increasingly. Let's not rely on mergers increasingly either. And I say this as somebody who wanted Netflix to buy Warner Bros. Again, they were the lesser of three evils. If Warner could run itself without Netflix, by all means. If I could run Warner Brothers, give me David Zaslav, come to me right now. Ted Sarandos, come to me. You give me Warner Brothers. 1 year, I'll turn it around. I'm not kidding. 1 year, I'll turn it around. We'll be the best goddamn studio out there. And you give me TV and movies and the games. Netflix didn't even factor in, I said this on Constitutionals, Netflix did not even factor in the WB games, which includes the Rocksteady, the company that made all of the Batman Arkham games, which are fantastic, except for Origins, which they did not make. And Origins is just fine. Anyway, they didn't even factor in all the WB games, Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War, the canceled Wonder Woman game that was going to use the Shadow of War, Shadow of Mordor combat system type thing. They even factor that in to their $83 billion. Can you believe that? It's ridiculous. You put me in charge, I'm turning it all around. We're going to win 70 Oscars next year. Could have said 70, said million. All right, listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me sit down and talk to a bunch of celebrities under the interviews, which is a place where you can find all of most of the written ones from pre-2020 and all the video ones from 2020 onward. If you want to see a video version of this show, as well as a video version of the other podcasts, Late Night Lately, the Late Night Show, and Constitutionals, the entertainment business news podcast, as well as video versions of the interviews, go to youtube.com/C+Comedy. Subscribe to those shows wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on social media at C Plus Comedy on TikTok, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Follow me on those platforms at Chad Black White. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye.